Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and my guest today is screenwriter Zack Stentz, and he has a new NFT project we're going to talk about. But first, I want to give a shout-out to our partner, crypto exchange MEXC. Use my link in the YouTube show notes and get up to $4,100 when you do that. I learned personally how to manage leverage using MEXC's Practice Sandbox. You get fake coins, but you trade against the real market. So you win or lose, and you learn sort of the energy of it as you go. So it's super cool. Highly recommend it. MEXC, I love it. Go ahead and join today. So Zack, hello, and welcome to Hash Rate.
Great to be here. Great to see you, even if not in the flesh.
Yes. Okay, so let me give you a little intro for those who don't know who you are. So Zack is a screenwriter. He co-wrote the first Thor movie, which I love. I think that's like one of the most perfect scripts I've ever seen. You also co-wrote X-Men First Class, the TV shows Fringe, again, which I love, CONNOR Chronicles, The Flash, and most recently I think you worked on GUN Maverick. Did I leave anything out that was super cool, or is that that's all very cool, but is there more cool?
I developed a little dinosaur show for Netflix that's done very well for them called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, which has just dropped its fifth season a few weeks ago.
Oh, super cool! So that one somehow weirdly escaped my radar.
Probably because you don't have like 8-year-old kids who are obsessed with dinosaurs.
That could be why. Yeah. So. And the other connection you and I have, now we've never spoken face-to-face. We've spoken a lot on Twitter and other places, but we first met because we were both advisors to Musk Gold, and I promised them I'd wear my T-shirt, but I can't find it. So I'll wear that for a little while.
They still haven't given me mine. I need to talk to the powers that be about that.
Oh, well, I'm sure they'll give it to you. I'm sure it's not a problem. So.
Exactly.
So that's why you're not wearing team hat today. So.
Because I don't have one, despite being an astronaut.
Yes. So, yeah, the advisors are called astronauts, so we are technically astronauts. So there we go. So I have another question for you before we sort of dive into a couple things. Did you go to Amadeus at the Hollywood Bowl like I did, or did you not go?
I wanted to go, but we by the time we went on StubHub, we weren't able to get the tickets. Even though my wife and I love going to the bowl, and we love Amadeus, so we were a little bit bitter, going on Facebook and seeing all of our friends who did manage to score tickets. But it just means that hopefully they'll do it next year, and we'll be ready to pounce.
Yep. Well, to my knowledge, is the first time they've done it, and it's funny because
bizarre, right? It's such a no-brainer. My wife, we've done the Sound of Music thing. We've seen Raiders with a live orchestra. We've seen one of the Star Wars movies with a live orchestra, and again, this movie that's literally about music, it shocks me that they haven't done that before.
Yeah, so for those of you who live in other parts of the world and country, so the Hollywood Bowl, it's here in LA, right? So there's all this movie stuff that they do, in addition to rock concerts and other sort of normal venue stuff that happens everywhere else. But at the Hollywood Bowl, you'll have John Williams. Like, he'll play all of his cool Star Wars and Raiders music for one night, and it's awesome. Everybody's got lightsabers. And then they'll show movies, and they'll delete the score from the movies, and they'll have a live orchestra that will play all the bits and pieces live. Now with Amadeus, the part for me that really got me was, when he's in bed and they're doing he's doing the Requiem, he's writing it, and they do all the little parts, right? And the orchestra plays it so you can hear like what they're talking about. They did that live. That was right. That was amazing.
So, talk about what a tremendous movie Amadeus is too. It's I know it began life as a play, and if you're watching closely, there are like a lot of scenes that are just two people in rooms talking, but it feels like a movie. And the music just gives it, in the way that they weave the music through it, just gives it so much scope. It's can't say enough good things. Go watch it if you haven't.
Yes, for sure. So let's talk a little bit now about some more screenwritery stuff, and then we'll get into the crypto stuff. But since you have this super cool career, I got to ask a few questions about it. So you co-wrote the first Thor screenplay, right? So
yeah, we were we were there. We were there at phase one. I don't even know if they were calling it phase one then, but yeah, we were writing Thor when they were still figuring out what the Marvel universe was. Iron Man, the first Iron Man had just come out that summer. And done really well, and then the Hulk movie with Edward Norton came out and did a little less well. Yeah. And we were kind of next at bat. It was the three movies that they were developing simultaneously were the second Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. And you'd go. Marvel was headquartered at Raleigh, Manhattan Beach at the time, and you would go on, and you'd look at your iPhone, and you could see the different Wi-Fi networks come up, and you could tell it's like oh, that's the code. Our code name was Manhattan. And so you'd see the one for Manhattan, and then right beneath it was like one that was called Rasputin, and it's like, oh, that must be Iron Man 2. And then I forget what the code name for Captain America was, but it was fun being able to figure out what the different projects were just by their Wi-Fi code names.
That's super awesome. Yes. So in my view, so you probably don't know this, but I'm also a writer, although a much less famous one than you. But I wrote this novel, product placement.
Yeah, I was going to say, just move your head to one side, and there you go.
So I got some cred. I've done some things.
Hey, that's published author is a big deal.
It is a big deal. I would agree. Once you get that little stamp on your butt, there's a BC and AD that happens for sure.
Oh, so. My mom didn't take me seriously as a writer. Like I had $1 billion in box office, and she didn't take me seriously as a writer until our YA novel came out and Penguin published it, and it was like, my son's a writer now.
That's hilarious. But I study these things, right? I'm like a student of like what other people do also, including screenplays, even though I've never written a screenplay. I read the Seed Field book, and I watch movies like through the lens of a writer partly. And when I saw the Thor movie, a lot of people had been talking about Back to the Future as like the perfect screenplay. But when I saw the Thor movie, to me, that was the perfect movie. And I was thinking it the first time I watched it. I was like, this is the perfect hero's journey. Like, this angel basically gets kicked out of heaven. He's made mortal and then sacrifices himself for the other mortals in Act 3. Like, it was awesome, and it was perfect. So, to my mind, I have always thought of that as one of the most perfect screenplays I've ever encountered. So it's wild to talk to you.
Well, thank you. It's we like to say that there were a lot of ways to make a bad Thor movie, and probably only a few ways to make a good one, and we feel very fortunate that we somehow stumbled on one of the ways to make it good. Although credit to we started with this document that they gave us. They didn't even tell us where it came from. And we diverged from it a lot, but it was kind of like their ideas for the story. And it turned out that it was J. Michael Straczynski, who did a really amazing run on the Thor comic book, had written that. So unbeknownst to us, Joe had helped us on that journey. And then, we read reread the comic books, and I took a college class on Norse mythology.
Probably you needed to do it, right?
I did, but it was what was great is the classes were on CD, and I live in the Valley, and they were down in Manhattan Beach, and we had to go at like 9. We had to be there at 9:00 sharp to have a 4-hour meeting with Kevin Feige and Kenneth Branagh, and the rest of their creative people. So I spent a long time in the car while working on Thor, and so listening to listening to the stories of Norse mythology were both good for the writing process and helped pass the time.
Super cool. Okay, so I have actually one or two last questions about this stuff. Fringe. I loved Fringe, and my dad loves Fringe. And he literally would call me up and be like, "It's Fringe Friday," like a commercial, right? Like that's how bad it was for him. And so amazing show. Loved every season and episode. One moment I have to ask you about. So there's this one episode where I think Walter accidentally takes LSD, and all of a sudden we're in this Monty Python cartoon. Like that is what the inside of Walter's head looks like. And I just thought, like, it was such a crazy thing to do and such a wild thing to do. Like, how do you know? Were you there when that part got written?
I was not there for that part. However, I will take credit for the part where we did do the episode where Walter gets the missing parts of his brain plugged back in temporarily. And it's just some of the most amazing acting by John Noble. Like this kind of sweet, doddering old man all of a sudden changes, and you realize, like, oh, this guy was freaking terrifying. This guy with his entire brain was a terrifying individual. Yeah, and he just conveys it purely through voice, body language, performance.
Yeah, John Noble is the guy that plays Walter. He is a fantastic actor. Completely agree.
Lord of the Rings fans may remember him as Denethor.
Oh yes, I remember him very well from that. So, so question for you about the writers' room, right? So today, and I hear that most screenplays or television screenplays, I mean, are concocted by a group of writers, sort of like team coding would be in software engineering. And that's very different from sort of the way it was back in, I don't know, the 60s or 70s, where like DC Fontana would write an episode. There'd be other people that would collaborate on it, but pretty much it's like one person writing an episode. Is that true? Is it mostly writers' room these days? And why did that change, do you think?
Interesting that you say that. I actually have an op-ed showing up in the LA Times tomorrow.
This is not planned. I had no idea
about the changes in writers, about the changes in how television is being written. Without going into huge amounts of detail, I would say that, yes, during the 50s and 60s, writers' rooms were less common. Most of Star Trek was written by, it was Gene Roddenberry and Gene Kuhn were the showrunners, and they had DC Fontana working for them, and it was almost all freelancers. It was much more freelance driven, and your episode was your episode, even though the showrunner would rewrite it. During the quote-unquote golden age of TV, it was very much writer's room driven, which is there's the executive producer, head writer, showrunner. Those are all those titles in one, is in charge. They have a room generally of 8 to 10 people, and you spend several hours a day, batting story ideas around. And when it works well, this kind of magic happens of something greater than the sum of its parts comes together from all of those writers. And that's the system that I came up in. And what it was really good for was training young writers how to become experienced writers and how to run their own shows. Like David Chase, who created The Sopranos, you think he must have been, like a novelist or something like that. It's like, no, he was in the Rockford Files writing room.
Wow, I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he went back to the Rockford Files. A lot of these writers who came up, like Sean Ryan, who created The Shield, which I love. He was in the Nash Bridges writers' room. Honestly, the Nash Bridges writers' room produced this tremendous number of show Damon Lindelof from who did Lost and who did The Leftovers and Watchmen. He came out of Nash Bridges as well. So so they learned from more experienced writers. The other thing that was good about that system as a young writer is you got to go to set and produce your own episode and like see the difference between what's on the page and, oh yeah, I wrote something that they can't shoot. Like just the realities of making a television show in 8 days, and there didn't have to be 5 people in that scene. Maybe it would have been better if there were 2 people in that scene, so you don't have, there are fewer camera setups to do. And then you also get to sit in post-production, where the episodes are edited, where the music is added, where the special effects are, the visual effects are added. And that's a huge learning process as well. So these people, by the time they were getting their own shows, were really experienced in all of that. And with the switch towards streaming and shorter seasons, I'm sure you've noticed that as a TV viewer, that we've gone from 22 or 13 episodes a year to like 8 episodes every year and a half or 2 years if you're lucky. From these streaming shows and from these premium cable shows. So and a lot of times they're either smaller writers' rooms or there really isn't a writer's room at all. You'll see, I really loved Peacemaker on HBO Max. I thought it was freaking hilarious. That was all written by one guy. So we're going towards. It's almost the British system that we're moving towards, where like you look at British TV and it all seems to be by 5 guys and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's not the same system as the one in the United States that really produced what I would call the golden age of TV. So that's something that writers talk to among themselves a lot. So. To sum up, we went from no writer's room, big writer's rooms, and now we're going more towards small writer's rooms and kind of one-man band, one writer does it all themselves system.
Interesting. Yeah, there was a moment, for some reason I was reminded, there's an old episode of Stargate where they're clearly ripping on sort of new writers and the mistakes they make. And I can't remember how they couch this, but basically they had this one scene where the team is being chased by every single enemy in the Stargate universe, and they're just running. And then the next scene, they just cut to another scene where they're back at the base, like, oh wow, that was close. Just basically showing what shitty writing looks like.
That sounds great. Yeah. I know. And the old, if you remember Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, they had a whole run of episodes when the star Kevin Sorbo had his aneurysm and couldn't do anything, so they did I think 3 episodes that were set in the writer's room where the actors were the actors on the show were playing the different writers for the for the show, and it was very meta but actually kind of funny at the same time. Yeah. And I think it was almost as good as the one where they turned Hercules into a pig for the entire episode, and the ratings were just as high.
Yeah, that's super awesome when you can do something like that and get away with it. So
exactly.
Let's move to crypto and NFTs and all that stuff. So when did you personally first get into crypto, and what was the first coin you bought? Tell me that story.
Honestly, I'm a newbie to this. I'm a newbie to this whole world.
Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I it's something that I've been observing and something that I've been curious about, because it's, as a writer, you have to you pride yourself for being kind of up on the culture and what's going on in it. So I was trying to understand it, and I didn't understand it, and then. But I knew the people who made the film right behind you, Trust Machine, that's on your wall, and that was and so I went to the premiere, and God bless Alex Winter. He did a great job of explaining what is unique about this, what is things as simple as what is the blockchain and how does it work.
And you did a great job at that. I completely agree, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and when you hear about like people mine, like how do you mine a coin? I don't understand that. And it's like, oh, you mean you're contributing a tiny amount to each transaction and getting rewarded for that? Okay, now I understand that. But I didn't really have, I didn't really have coins until I got the developers of Musk Gold kind of explained what they were doing with that, and I really liked the idea that they were, that they had a real use and a real utility in helping people adopt renewable energy, and that like the sustainability of life on the planet is someone who has children is of great concern to me, and so I really liked the idea of using all of that and using people's desire to get into trading to reward them for doing something that was good for the planet. So I liked that a lot. And now I'm into Solana, which I like because I like the art aspect. I like the art aspect a lot, and I like the fact that people can buy art with Solana without getting gouged on gas fees the way that they do when getting it on Ethereum. You hear about people like paying $500 in fees to buy a piece of art, which that doesn't seem right to me.
No, it doesn't. I mean, that's why Ethereum is scrambling right now to do the merge, right, and to upgrade to proof of stake. You may know about this, you may not. But basically, Ethereum knows they have a massive problem. They're losing people over the last 2 years. Yeah, there's a site called DeFi Llama, and it shows the dominance of Ethereum. Mostly in decentralized finance, but it's sort of a gauge for everything. Mm-hmm. The dominance of Ethereum versus all the other chains like Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Phantom, Avalanche, all those things. And about 2 years ago, Ethereum had 100% dominance. It's now down to 50%. So they've literally lost half of the market over a 2-year period. So, and the reason why is the high gas fees and the fact that sometimes Ethereum, there's so much demand for the blockchain that it gets clogged and like transactions don't go through for hours. So obviously people are going to other things that work better now. But Ethereum's got a problem because upgrading like what they already have, they sort of have to rebuild the airplane while it's in the air, right? So it's very difficult, right, to do.
That's a writer's room term, by the way.
Very right. Like, I know. It's an engineering term too.
Sometimes you gotta build the plane while you fly it.
Yeah, pretty much. So they have a multi-year plan to upgrade everything, and when they're done, Ethereum will be in a year and a half where Solana, Phantom, and Avalanche are today. So it's going to be like a multi-step process. So there's all kinds of speculation as to whether they can do it or not. And it's anybody's guess. Like I give it like a 50-50. I don't really know. So,
yeah, I mean, imagine, especially like if you're bidding on something at auction and you can't, like something won't go through for hours, like you could completely lose out because of it.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, and without a doubt, Solana has solved. They can do 50,000 transactions per second on testnet. Before you all hate me, I know that's on a testnet. It's not proven. But theoretically, and they have proven that they can go a lot faster, put it that way. And some of the other chains have done much the same. So and the gas fees are super, super, super low. So Solana is absolutely a competitor, no matter how you want to slice it. It used to go down a lot. I've noticed that it's been stable all summer. It hasn't gone down once this summer. So they've definitely made some improvements over this year.
I think that stability is so critical too. I think at the end of the day, an underrated reason for why Facebook ended up winning out over MySpace is the fact that MySpace was going down all the time, and Facebook somehow managed to keep its servers running even as the number of users was growing exponentially. That was kind of an underrated engineering feat.
Yeah, well, I mean, MySpace was constructed using Cold Fusion, if I remember correctly. So rewriting that very, very difficult to do while the airplane's in the air. So they were sort of stuck with that, whereas Facebook could re-architect from scratch. And learning the lessons of MySpace and getting a new one in the air, building those lessons into the new architecture. It's a lot easier than trying to rewrite something that's already running. So yeah, I remember those days, and I totally hear you on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird comparison, I know.
Yeah, I know. So, I wanted to mention also, for people who don't know, Alex Winter, the guy who directed this film, he is Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. A lot of people don't know that. That's sort of in my world, right? So you definitely know who he is. And Rosario Dawson was the narrator, so most of you know who that is.
Yeah,
so it was a pretty well done film with some great people.
Yeah, he's a tremendous filmmaker. Actually, he and I are working on a project together about John McAfee.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds
plenty of material there.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see that. That'll be a good one. Okay. Yeah. So I heard one of his old girlfriends says he faked his death and he's in Texas now. I just saw that on Twitter.
I saw that as well. I don't know how they got that past the Spanish authorities, but
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's become like Elvis now. There's no McAfee sightings, right?
He's partying with Elvis and D.B. Cooper as we speak.
Right. He's alive! So, all right. So let's move on to your NFT project at last. I know it took me a while to get there, but I think it was fun. So tell me about your new NFT project, Zach.
The people at Visionary Studios who do a lot of NFT stuff on Solana approached me via friends and asked if I wanted to write the narrative part of a series that they were putting out. And I initially told them no, because I didn't understand how that whole world worked, and it seemed kind of weird. And then they said, well, why don't you just look at the art? And I said, okay. And the art was by this guy named Stuzor. His name is Stuart, but that's the name he goes by on social media. And it was some of the most awesome art I've ever seen. If we're about the same age, I think. If you grew up on Omni magazine, do you remember Omni magazine?
Oh, and
those incredible sci-fi covers that they did that would just like stimulate your imagination. Like that's what his art is like. It's like, like these cosmic constructions and broken down statues and all kinds of kind of great imagery that just conjures up these amazing vistas in your mind. And I said, okay, I'm in. I like this. And so working together with Stu, I kind of came up with a narrative to go with 12 pieces of his art, and wrote it as kind of 12 linked short stories that kind of, or not really short stories, but it's it's as old as Charles Dickens. It's a serialized novella essentially about this figure called the girl in the red cape, and who or what is she looking for? Where does she come from? Where is she going? Why do we see her on a different world in each of these 12 images that Stuart put together in Unreal Engine? And I don't know how many of your listeners know about Unreal Engine, but it is both a game graphic engine, but it's also now increasingly being used by movie studios for visual effects, and its capabilities are absolutely incredible. So he's able to create and render these full 3D things that you can do a fly through of, that you can do a fly through at different angles. So there will be still versions of each of the 12 worlds, and then there will be a fly-through version. And as we're doing the fly-through version, you get this 3 to 5 minute short story by me that will be narrated by the great Lance Reddick, from Fringe,
yes,
from the John Wick movies, from Bosch, and possessed of an amazing speaking voice. So it will be and there'll be music along with it too. So you're going to get this narrative, visual, audio, musical experience in these science fiction worlds that Stu and I have created. So it is a long way from, a pixelated image of a monkey. It's something, I wanted to, along with the other people, create something that has real artistic merit. And if you don't know what NFTs are, if you don't know what all of that is about, and you just want to experience it as a story, you can. And if you want to collect it and have a piece of it, you can do that too. And if you want to be part of the Discord where people are essentially doing like fan art and filling in their own parts of the world and kind of running with it, then like there are all kinds of different levels of involvement that you can have with the whole world. So it feels exciting to me in a way that podcasts did when they the kind of rise of podcasts and the rise of audio dramas, because the thing with audio dramas is you can essentially create new IP, create new stories that don't cost you $3 to $5 million for 40 minutes the way that television does. And then later you can turn it into TV, you can turn it into a movie, or it can just live. It can live as that. But this feels like that to me, except it's like you're creating a Christopher Nolan sci-fi epic without spending $200 million.
Totally get that. So going back to this book, not to be obnoxious with it, but the way I got it published, because I was like nobody, right? And trying to get published, that's really hard. I podcasted as an audiobook in 2005, I was one of the first 3 people to do that. And that was what got me like 2.3 million downloads, which led to the publishing deal, right? So that was the sort of the order of effects.
The whole thing with The Martian by Andy Weir was kind of wasn't that like didn't he start that on like Reddit or something like that? And like
Hugh Howey did the same thing as well. Hugh Howey very famously with Wool, if you know that series. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like you start with the fact that the internet has made the barriers to publishing non-existent. So you can just put it up on your own website, or you can put it up on another website, and if people like it and people start following it, then it will, suddenly you'll get people's attention. Being an author now has become a lot more, or an author or an artist has become a lot more like being in a rock band was 30 years ago, where you build up your fan base and then the major labels come around. Yep.
So let's go back to the girl in the red cape, because I want to ask you a few more questions there.
Oh,
so
of course.
I'm getting very sort of huff and puff and blow your house down kind of vibes, or is that Three Little Pigs? No, I'm thinking Red Riding Hood. Well, Big Bad Wolf's in both of those, right? So they're both in the Big Bad Wolf cinematic universe. So still, 2 different installments. But is it sort of Red Riding Hood-ish or not?
It's not, actually. You would think that, because there is a girl and she is wearing a red cape, that it would be, it would be a riff on the Red Riding Hood story, but it isn't. I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's much more of a big epic science fiction story. And I really liked the opportunity to tell a story about the things that I think about at like 2 a.m, which is how big the universe is and how long time is. And it's tough to get people to conceptualize things like, there are billions of galaxies, and the universe has been around for billions of years, and there might have been a universe before that universe that was around for billions of years. Like you just, we're mayflies compared to that. So I use a few storytelling techniques to get people to think about time and space and how big both of them are in hopefully different ways than they have before.
Well, that sounds awesome. Now I'm intrigued. So yeah, I can't wait to check it out. So,
and it's I'll give one spoiler, which is just, if you lost someone or something that you loved, how far and how long would you go to try and get that thing or person back? And that's the kind of question that propels our story.
got it. Very interesting. So when does this launch?
I don't know if it's been officially announced yet, but it should be coming in September, I believe.
Okay. And then how do people find? Go ahead.
Oh, and right now Stu is doing these 1/1 auctions of his art on Visionary that are kind of form, called Talking to Gods, and they kind of form a prequel to the girl in the red cape. So he's going to. I think he's doing. I forget how many auctions he's doing, but when those auctions stop, then the girl in the red cape launches after that.
Got it. And how many pieces total will there be in the collection for sale? Do you know that?
I don't know exactly, but it's what it's going to be is it's going to be 12 worlds, and each of those worlds is going to be divided into frames. As you fly through. So each person who bids will have a different angle of the main of that particular world. And I think like one of them in each of the 12 is going to be very rare. So we'll have maybe even a clue as to what's going on, because the whole thing is it's a 12-part mystery as well that is going to slowly be unfolded chapter to chapter. So there's it's a little bit of a big game of Clue in that way. So it'll be in the thousands, but I think it's going to be like each one will be, I forget, something 100, and then like adding up. And of course they want people to collect all 12, but if you just get one, that's fine. And it's again, it's however much or however little you want to participate in it. And I like to think that it's something that it's an art experience that you can that has its own intrinsic value that you're gonna want to collect and have a piece of, not just because it might go up in value, but because it's something that's valuable, and it's something that's valuable to you because you have an emotional connection to it. That's it. Doing something just for collecting value is not interesting to me. Yep.
So has someone else, to your knowledge, done sort of a story based around NFTs? I mean, I know there've been lots of projects. I don't follow all the projects, so I'm not sure. What have you seen? Or are you the first, to your knowledge?
I think we might be the first. I think we're certainly the first to have this kind of audio, visual, text, kind of complete experience. Which again is what makes it exciting. It feels like being in the birth of a new art form. Or one that's in the same way that podcasts are. It's new and old. Podcasts are both as new as the internet and as old as radio. This is as new as Web3 and as old as Charles Dickens chopping his novels into chapters and serializing them in the newspaper.
Yeah, completely. So this is on Solana. You haven't explicitly said that, but that's my guess. Okay, so it is on Solana.
Yeah, I think it's. I think Magic Eden is who they've been is who they're talking to is the place to go, and it's Visionary Studios is the company that's doing this.
Okay, is there a website or a Twitter handle people should follow to learn more about this?
Yes. Let me call it up.
I mean,
right
they
now.
could follow you. I mean, for sure. So we should. And I'll put your Twitter handle in the show notes so people can follow you if they don't already.
Yeah, there's Visionary Solana is probably the best place to follow, and it's literally just Visionary Solana.
Okay, at Visionary Solana.
Yeah, it's at Visionary Solana and they'll take you. And Girl in the Red Cape has her own, and that one is at In the Red Cape.
Got it. At In the Red Cape. That's the Twitter handle for the project. Okay, very cool. So we're kind of at the 40-minute mark here, so I want to wrap up with just one more question. So what is...
Are you
next
Columbo now? Just
yes,
one more thing?
Just a moment. Just one more thing. So, what is next for you? I heard you are working on Big Trouble in Little China. Is that true?
I was working on Big Trouble in Little China.
No.
It's my former partner and I were approached to do a remake of Big Trouble in Little China with The Rock attached to star, because it turns out that Big Trouble in Little China is one of The Rock's 5 favorite movies of all time.
Totally, it's a great movie.
We wrote a script that he was really excited about, and this is what I think happened. You remember how they added Kurt Russell to the Fast and Furious movies as Mr. Nobody? I think what happened was Kurt Russell was standing beside The Rock on set and was like, "Hey, I hear you're remaking my movie. Is there a place for me in it?" So I think by the time Kurt Russell stopped talking to The Rock, they came to the conclusion that they didn't want to make a remake. They wanted to make a continuation with The Rock playing a new character and Kurt coming back as Jack Burton. So it's now, as far as I know, in the hands of other writers, and The Rock is booked out till 2027. So God knows if and when they'll ever make it, or he'll ever have time to make it. But that is the way it works in Hollywood. You work on a version of something that you're really excited by, and then they decide that that's not the you're like the Nazis and Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're digging in the wrong place without being told. So that's you have to work on a lot of different things to have a few of them come to fruition. One thing that I am very excited by that I've been working on is I don't know if your viewers / listeners are into Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, which is a big fantasy series that's now a big TV series on Amazon Prime. But the producers of it approached me to write a prequel movie set in the Age of Legends. So I had a really fun time with that, and we're about to, knock on wood, get a really exciting director on board for it and make that. So it should be a really fun fantasy movie like you've never seen before. Because I did some pretty fun things with that script. So that's another thing that I'm really excited by. And then working on a bunch of independent films and trying to stay out of trouble.
Well, that all sounds awesome. Zack Stentz, thank you so much for being on. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. New NFT project is The Girl in the Red Cape. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. We'll see you next time.